When the cleaning lady spoke Korean, the hidden truth about the millionaire was revealed. Emily was folding freshly laundered sheets on the rolling cart beside Min-jae in the expansive laundry room of Mr. Harrison's estate. The sunlight poured through the enormous windows, illuminating a space that felt both foreign and beautiful. Every day as she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was living in someone else's reality, one marked by luxuries she could barely dream of affording. As a waitress and a part-time office assistant, she was constantly running on fumes, her energy stretched thin trying to make ends meet for little Mia, her 7-year-old daughter. Today was no different. She felt the weight of every stitch in those sheets, as if they could somehow envelop her worries and shield her from the storm brewing in her life. The secrets he keeps, you know. Min-jae's quiet voice broke through Emily's spiraling thoughts, startling her. Mr. Harrison. He's more than just a wealthy man. He carries a burden. Emily hesitated, fingers fumbling with the fabric. The faintest glimmer of curiosity flared in her, but a gnawing doubt curled within her chest. Could she trust Min-jae? This woman she had grown close to over shared laughter and late-night conversations? She loved their friendship, a precious light in her otherwise monotonous world. But now, what if Min-jae's affections for Mr. Harrison blinded her to something darker? Emily? Min-jae's voice pulled her from her thoughts again, this time gentle yet probing. Right, Emily responded, shaking her head slightly. I've always thought he was just another rich guy, you know? The truth was she admired his manners, his silence an enigma wrapped in silk ties and tailored suits. But the whispers of scandal floating around the gossiping patrons she served each day made it harder to fight off swelling suspicions. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. His life isn't what it seems, Min-jae continued, a shadow passing over her features. He kept his distance because he doesn't want to hurt anyone. The way she said it conveyed both loyalty and sadness, creating a palpable tension in the air. Emily felt the walls close in around her, confusion and dread spiraling within. What did Min-jae know that she didn't? A growing anxiety rooted deep, threatening to burst forth. If what the rumors promised was true, Mr. Harrison wasn't just an innocent man. And if she found out more? Would she ruin Min-jae's conviction, risk it all for a truth buried in complexities? Caught between her burgeoning distrust of a man offering the dream she grew weary of reaching for, and a fierce loyalty to the only friend she had left, Emily's heart raced. Should she act? Wait. Every choice echoed with the weight of responsibility, her little girl's safety whispering anxiously in the recesses of her mind. That as she stood on the precipice of discovery, every heartbeat seemed to scream for action, yet fear clawed at her resolve. She couldn't shake the feeling that her next steps would either shatter or reshape her entire world. Min-jae's next revelation hung there, twisted in the air, and for the first time, Emily felt the pulse of secrets drawing her into its embrace, a mystery that could either save her or consume her entirely. Emily inhaled sharply, her thoughts spiraling into a cacophony of possibilities. What if Min-jae's insights were rooted in something valid? What if Mr. Harrison was not merely a mysterious wealthy man, but someone ensnared in turmoil that threatened to spill over? The implications sent a shiver down her spine, forcing her to confront her indecision. Min-jae, what do you know? Emily ventured, the tremor of her voice betraying her resolve. This was more than idle curiosity. It felt like her lifeline in a storm. Min-jae glanced around, as if seeking a reprieve from the watchful eyes of the estate. I cannot say everything, she murmured, but I can tell you that he has always been kind to us. He appreciates what we do. Kindness was not what Emily needed right now. She needed clarity. But what kind of person hides behind kindness? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Min-jae's silence only amplified the weight of Emily's thoughts, urging her to peel back the layers of obscurity surrounding Mr. Harrison. As she folded the last sheet, Emily felt a strange sense of resolve hardening within her. The thought of remaining static, bound by the limits of her current life, began to feel intolerable. She needed to act, to dive into the depths of this mystery despite the lurking shadows threatening to envelop her. That evening, as she prepared Mia's dinner, Emily's mind wandered through the fragments of her conversation with Min Jae. What secrets did Mr. Harrison carry? And more importantly, what had been concealed from her? The normal clang of pots and the bubbling of water on the stove felt distant, overshadowed by the tumult of her thoughts. After Mia had gone to bed, Emily sunk into the couch, the comfort of her small living space unable to quell her unease. The television flickered in the background, but the noise felt mundane and uninviting. She pulled out her phone, hesitating before opening a browser. Should she search for news on Mr. Harrison? Did she really want to venture into unknown territory, risking everything for answers that might lead to unwanted truths? The screen lit up as she typed his name, her fingers trembling with anticipation and fear. Articles unfolded, recounting his philanthropic efforts alongside murky stories of his family's enigmatic past. Curiosity brimming, she found herself drawn into the digital web, every click revealing just enough detail to ignite her imagination but too few answers to quench her thirst for understanding. Among the pieces of unfiltered truth, one headline caught her eye. Millionaire's family in dispute over inheritance. Emily's heart raced. Would this lead her to the complications haunting his past? The risk of digging deeper gnawed at her, intertwining with her desire to know. What was it about Mr. Harrison that compelled her to delve further, even as a warning echoed in her mind? Was it attraction? A budding empathy for someone trapped in circumstances similar to her own? Each question spiraled her thoughts into dizzying circles of uncertainty. As the clock ticked past midnight, realizing she had to confront whatever awaited her was as exhilarating as it was terrifying. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A message from Min Jae: "Be careful. There's more to him than you know." A chill rippled through Emily. It wasn't just a warning. It felt like a challenge. Was she prepared to confront the truth? The fear of unearthing what lay hidden began to morph into determination. With every fiber of her being, she was ready to face the unknown, even if it meant encountering ghosts of the past that could pull her under. The next morning, driven by a newfound resolve, Emily decided to take the first step. She would confront Min Jae about their conversation, but not before she uncovered the connection between Mr. Harrison and the inheritance dispute. As she tucked little Mia's lunch into her bag, questions simmered in her mind, demanding answers. What if the truth would not only alter her perception of Mr. Harrison but ignite a flame of hope she thought was extinguished? The moment felt charged with significance, propelling her into the uncertainty of tomorrow. A newfound clarity settled in her chest. The time had come to face whatever awaited her, no matter the cost. Would this journey lead her to despair? Or might it unveil an unexpected path toward the life she had always dreamed of? With every step, Emily treaded deeper into uncharted waters, determined to unmask the realities that lay hidden beneath the surface. The morning light poured through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's worries, but doing little to wash away Emily's resolve. As she rinsed Mia's lunchbox, her mind churned with the promise she had made to herself. Today she would confront Min Jae, that fragile bridge to the secrets that tantalized her. Emily's heart beat with an urgency that both excited and terrified her. She reviewed their last conversation, trying to analyze Min Jae's posture, her hesitations. What could be the fate of Mr. Harrison's past that had rendered him both a benefactor and a possible monster? She had to know. Determined, Emily knew that to learn more about Mr. Harrison, she must also delve deeper into Min Jae's world. She rushed through her morning routine, the shadows of self-doubt bouncing off the walls of her mind. Could she suppress her insecurities long enough to manage this confrontation? Would Min Jae see her as merely the cleaning lady, or as someone approaching the truth? Arriving early at work was a first for Emily, and she found herself pacing near the entrance rather than settling into her usual tasks. She rehearsed her questions incessantly, trying to cultivate an air of casual intensity. How do you ask a person to spill the origins of a wealthy man without sounding like an intruder? Finally, Min Jae arrived, her demeanor all business as she navigated the estate's entrance. The contrast between their worlds felt stark today. Emily, in her worn shoes and simple attire, stood against the polished facade of the manor where Min Jae moved with an elegance that belied her duties. "Min Jae," Emily called, her voice steadying with each step forward. Can we talk for a moment? The older woman turned, surprise flickering in her eyes. Of course, Emily. Is everything all right? Actually, Emily hesitated, searching for the most effective way to approach the topic without scaring Min-jae away. I overheard some things, she finally said, feeling the weight of her own vulnerability. About Mr. Harrison. I need to know more. Min-jae's features hardened slightly, and for a moment, the warmth disappeared from her eyes. Some things are best left undiscussed. Please, Emily pressed, empathy mixing with anticipation. I can feel that there's more to him. If there is darkness in his life, it may help explain things that confuse us both. Emily's words hung in the air, each heartbeat thudding an insistence that echoed her growing urgency. Min-jae studied her, the silence thick between them. Then slowly she nodded, as if giving herself permission to proceed. In that case, you must understand people in his world wear masks. What you see is not always what is true. An unexpected thrill raced through Emily. She was finally slipping past the barriers, ready to unwrap layers of pretense. I want to learn what isn't obvious. The family dispute, what's at stake for him? Min-jae sighed, tension etched in her features. He lost someone dear. The inheritance dispute isn't just about money. It is a battle for his past. You need to tread carefully. He hides his pain, it was his choice. Emily's determination surged. Each word coated her in courage and dread simultaneously. The conversation was now cementing her purpose, lifting her uncertainty. What can I do to help? She asked, voice firm yet stripped of the bravado she often assumed. Min-jae frowned, a flicker of fear sparking in her eyes. Help. That's a dangerous request. Don't become a magnet for his darkness. Trust me, he knows people are looking. You may only uncover what lies underneath his kindness by unraveling danger. Then it hit her. Confronting Mr. Harrison would not just be a search for the truth, it would reverberate into her own existence, challenging her notions of safety. Emily's thoughts spiraled. The risk was palpable. Her heart raced with the thought of stepping into a world filled with hidden truths and possible dangers. Could this be the spark she needed to embrace fear and transform it into strength? As they parted, Min-jae's lingering words echoed in Emily's mind, prompting her to reevaluate the implications of what she had unearthed. Did she truly understand what she was diving into, and was she willing to pay the potential price? With resolution building, she resolved that the encounter with Mr. Harrison was unavoidable. But would she be ready when the moment arrived? Yet, as she stepped into the sunlight, shadowed doubts crept in, tightening around her like a vice. What if the tonight she sought was nothing but an illusion beckoning her deeper into the darkness? Each question felt like treason against the determination she had so carefully built. Emily took a deep breath, gravity drawing her thoughts toward the impending confrontation. The moment of truth was nearing an intersection of clarity and uncertainty that could alter her life forever. What would reveal itself when she stood before the millionaire? Her heart obviously tethered to her growing courage. Emily's steps quickened as the weight of her resolve surged through her. The clarity of her purpose crystallized into tangible energy, propelling her toward Mr. Harrison's office. Each footfall marked the distance she was closing in on a truth that had eluded her for far too long. Conversation with Min-jae, fraught with emotion and tension, had stripped back her doubts and branched out a map of potential resolutions. She paused at the door, her hand hovering over the polished brass handle, a flood of strategies cascading through her thoughts. Did she approach him with compassion, seek to show understanding, or should she wield inquiries like a sword, slicing through pleasantries directly to the heart of the matter? It was a delicate balance, one she had to finesse if she hoped to penetrate the protective shell surrounding Mr. Harrison. Drawing in a breath, she steadied herself. The mere thought of speaking the truth could unravel every comfortable facade she put on in her daily life. But somewhere under the layers of her narrative, a voice urged her forward. This wasn't just about him. It was about reclaiming her own narrative. With newfound confidence, she knocked lightly, each rap echoing through the lavish office that awaited her. The door creaked open to reveal Mr. Harrison, his demeanor one of composed authority, the crystal chandeliers above reflecting the light like an audience to their encounter. Emily, he greeted, his brow rising slightly in surprise. To what do I owe the pleasure? She offered a faint smile, careful to suppress the tremor in her voice. I need to talk to you about something important. Important? He crossed his arms, the tension palpable in the air. What's on your mind? This was it. The moment teetered delicately between fear of repercussion and the hope of liberation, the crossroads of her mundane existence and the extraordinary truth she sought. Emily swallowed, summoning courage. I've heard some things about your past, about your family, and I believe they're affecting the present. I want to understand. His gaze darkened, a flicker of annoyance peppered with intrigue. My past is not your concern, Emily, but it impacts us all, she pressed, desperation tainting her voice. You carry something heavier than just wealth. It's as if the shadows cling to you. How can I help if you refuse to share? For an agonizing moment he studied her. The seconds stretched, filled with unspoken turmoil. Yet, as Emily stood grounded in her newfound determination, his defenses appeared to waver. Perhaps there was awareness surfacing beneath the decades of conditioning that kept vulnerability buried. You really want to help? Mr. Harrison said finally, his posture shifting minutely, almost imperceptibly. I do, she replied, voice firm, because it's clear you face things that haunt you. I can be a bridge for you with Minjae or however you choose. We can uncover your truth together if you let me. A silent struggle played out behind his eyes, revealing just enough to sustain Emily's anticipation. If I open that door, you must be prepared for what may come. Knowledge is rarely a light burden. Her heart thudded, absorbing the weight of his warning. I am ready. Then meet me tonight, he instructed, his tone grave. In the garden. I will share what I can. With the merest flicker of hope igniting in her chest, Emily nodded, thoughts racing. What revelation awaited her? Would the darkness prove too overwhelming or transform into clarity? As she left the office, a mixture of exhilaration and dread swirled within her. The gravity of her choice to pull back the curtain on Mr. Harrison's life felt monumental. But the more pressing question loomed larger. Had she unwittingly placed herself at the center of a storm she couldn't control? Each step away from him fused her decision with resonance, a stark reminder that sometimes seeking the truth necessitates sacrificing security. Underneath it all, Emily recognized her own transformation. She had gone from a reluctant bystander in her life to a seeker of truths, facing the darkness. Not just for him but for her own liberation. With nightfall approaching, her resolve would be tested deeper than she had anticipated. Who would emerge from the shadows, and what would she discover about herself once she engaged with the hidden layers beneath his surface? The garden awaited, and so did the turning point of her destiny. The garden loomed ahead, an expanse of manicured hedges and dappled moonlight playing tricks on her senses. As Emily navigated the gravel path, the crunch beneath her feet seemed to echo her anxious heartbeat. She had stepped into a realm rich with the fragrance of blooming jasmine and the weight of unspoken histories. Each breath filled her lungs with a melange of emotions: anticipation, uncertainty, and a determined excitement. Emily leaned against the cold stone wall that framed the garden, her mind a churning sea of thoughts. What exactly was Mr. Harrison prepared to reveal? Would his truths only mirror her own long-buried fears? The night felt pregnant with the possibility of revelation, and she was poised at the brink, ready to dive in despite the risks. The soft rustle of fabric drew her attention, and there he was, Mr. Harrison, stepping cautiously into the arc of light spilling from a nearby lantern. His expression was unreadable, a masterclass in stoicism, yet Emily sensed tension rippling beneath that calm facade. Nervous energy radiated between them as he approached, but beneath it, there was an uncharacteristic warmth glinting in his eyes, a flickering light of vulnerability. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice steadier than she expected. Emily nodded, swallowing a lump that rose reflexively in her throat. You asked me to meet, and I am here. I want to understand. He gestured for her to sit on a wrought iron bench, its painted surface cool under her fingers. The shapes of the garden danced in the soft moonlight, a collage of shadows momentarily obscuring the weighty conversation that loomed ahead. My family history is not for the faint of heart, Mr. Harrison started, his gaze fixing on a distant point as if to anchor himself. We're not simply wealthy. We're steeped in a legacy of secrets, power plays, and painful choices. Emily leaned in, her heart racing at the promise of what he might disclose. Yet amidst her urgency, a sharp prickle of doubt nudged at her mind. What do you mean by painful choices? What did you choose? A brief flicker of pain crossed his face, an unguarded moment swiftly obscured. Every choice has its price, he continued, but some things are not easy to articulate. His voice grew softer as he added, my father was a man driven by ambition. He built his empire through calculated decisions, many of which shattered lives including our family. In that moment, the barriers of their professional engagement began to dissolve, allowing a more profound connection to seep through. Emily felt a strange kinship forming. She had also grappled with the weight of expectations and the pursuit of validation. You're not alone in that, she offered, her voice quiet yet firm. Many of us carry burdens shaped by those who came before. He met her gaze, surprise flickering like a candle flame caught in a sudden gust of wind. You don't understand. When I channeled my anger into building, it left little room for warmth. Isolation was my norm. It's easier to hide behind walls than to face the truth. I felt the shadows of my past as a gilded cage. His words poured forth like a rush of water from an untamed river, breaking through years of dammed emotions. Emily realized how deeply this revelation could impact not only him but also their working dynamic. What fractured walls might she help dismantle together? As he continued to unravel the threads of his history, revealing the intertwining narratives of hardship and resilience, Emily discovered newfound strength within herself. Each moment of connection opened doors both for him and her, pushing her further along the path of her own transformation. Can we move forward then? She asked cautiously, her heart uncertain yet yearning. Can we create a new narrative from your family's story? One that actually embraces the truths instead of hiding from them? Mr. Harrison hesitated, his eyes a maelstrom of emotion, fear, hope, guilt. That would require courage, both from you and me. Emily nodded, her voice resolute. Then let us cultivate that courage together. But we must also be prepared to face the consequences of what such honesty brings. As the words hung in the cool night air, the reality settled heavily around them, the knowledge that unearthing truths, while transformative, came with irrevocable changes. But within that realization, another question blossomed. Would they merely reveal shadows or bask in the illuminating light of a new understanding? The garden, with its silent witnesses, braced for the truths that would either forge new paths or entangle them deeper in their pasts. As they stood on the precipice of this emotional interchange, Emily pondered what new secrets might awaken from the roots of such hidden histories. Emily felt the weight of the moment teetering on the brink of something transformative. The familiar pang of doubt resurfaced as she contemplated Mr. Harrison's request for courage. Were they really ready to confront the misdeeds that shaped the contours of their lives? The stillness of the garden felt like a stage set for an unveiling, and she was no longer just an audience member. She was an active participant in this unfolding drama. Courage, Emily whispered, the word tasting strange yet familiar on her tongue. She had spent years avoiding uncomfortable truths, retreating instead into her work and ambitions. But now, confronted by Mr. Harrison, she was forced to reckon with her own retreat from emotional honesty. Did she have the strength to not just witness his journey but to contribute to it? Mr. Harrison's voice broke through her introspection. Emily, I know my family's legacy casts a long shadow. There are choices yet to be made, choices that could either heal us or deepen the rifts. I want you to be part of that. A flicker of fear and excitement ignited inside her. She felt her pulse quicken as she considered the possibilities. What does moving forward look like for you? She asked, striving to remain grounded amid the emotional tension. It means confronting the sins of my past. Understanding that legacy doesn't excuse behavior. I want reconciliation, Mr. Harrison confessed, his vulnerability stark against the backdrop of their professional relationship. He seemed lighter as he spoke, as if articulating this desire had lifted a burden. And how do we begin? She pressed, feeling her own determination bloom. He took a deep breath, his gaze shifting to the dense hedges of the garden, as if seeking strength in the foliage. We can start by involving the people who were affected by my father's decisions. That means owning the consequences of my family's actions. The gardener, the staff, even investors who lost their fortunes and trust. Emily's heart raced. The stakes here were enormous. Not only were they challenging the family's status quo, but they were also potentially risking their reputations. And if we fail, if opening these old wounds only brings more pain? He met her gaze, the intensity of his resolve igniting something within her. Then at least we'll know we tried. The truth is, living in the shadows is a prison of our own making. Realization washed over her. This was her chance to defy her own history of avoidance. As they began to outline a plan, she felt the contours of her professional identity expanding. No longer was she merely the employee navigating the corporate labyrinth. She was evolving into a change agent, ready to confront uncomfortable realities. We can turn this despair into actionable change. We can be a force for good. With tentative excitement, they mapped out potential conversations, starting with the neglected voices that had been silenced for far too long. As the plan took shape, Emily could sense something emerging within her, an empowerment born from a commitment to truth. Each detail they crafted was not just strategic. It became a thread weaving them closer, marking the beginning of a partnership rooted in transparency. Yet, the doubt still lingered as they discussed logistics. Emily suddenly voiced her concerns about being too ambitious too quickly. How will we know when the time is right to pull back? What if we overstep and harm instead of heal? A thoughtful silence enveloped them, shared vulnerability hanging between breaths. Mr. Harrison finally broke it with the solemn reminder that's the essence of courage, Emily. Risking the wrongs in pursuit of the right. They stood together in the garden, feeling the weight of their decisions pressing in. A mixture of trepidation and determination swirling within. Would they be brave enough to embrace the unknown together? Knowing the truth never guarantees comfort? In that moment, the world outside the garden faded away, leaving only the two of them, each with their own collection of scars and secrets, yet somehow bound by a hope for change. What revelations lurked behind the green walls of this garden? As they wrapped up their plans under the gentle blanket of night, Emily sensed another shadow creeping in, a nagging thought that perhaps unveiling the past would lead her to confront her own buried truths as well. What if their journey did not just change Mr. Harrison's life, but unmasked a truth about herself she had long avoided? The following morning, the sun broke brightly over the garden, illuminating the path forward that had seemed so daunting just hours before. Emily arrived early, anticipation bubbling beneath her skin, the faint scent of dew mixed with the fragrant blooms, a reminder that beauty can foster growth, but that growth can also require pruning. As she settled on a bench, she allowed the calmness of the garden to ground her racing thoughts. The weight of her responsibilities weighed heavily. Each conversation they planned held enormous potential to unearth hidden stories that could either bind them together or unravel their fragile alliance. She closed her eyes momentarily, pulling deeply from the wellsprings of courage as she sought a steady heartbeat. Her phone buzzed, and a message from Mr. Harrison appeared. "Can we meet sooner? I need to share something important." The shift in tone was palpable. His earlier hopefulness was now tinged with urgency. A knot formed in her stomach. Was this a step forward, or the preamble to a setback? Emily took a deep breath, wrestling her emotions, ready to approach any revelation with open hands rather than clenched fists. When Mr. Harrison arrived, his expression revealed a mix of determination and unease. She gestured for him to sit, her mind racing with questions. What could possibly warrant this intensity so early? "Emily, I need to be transparent with you," he began, his voice steady yet strained. "As we delve deeper into discussing my family's past, I've been reminded of my father's business dealings, how they were built on questionable ethics." "What do you mean?" She leaned forward, craving clarity. "There's something about those decisions I haven't disclosed. Something about how my father influenced certain investors, even using aggressive tactics to maintain power." The words came tumbling out, heavier than he intended. "I'm ashamed, but I believe it's essential to acknowledge their repercussions. Not just for my family but for everyone involved." Emily's mind buzzed with implications. A fissure in his familial narrative had opened, exposing raw truths that could either unite them in purpose or create irreparable divides. "Are you suggesting that we bring this to light?" she questioned, the gravity of his admissions beginning to sink in. Each word from Mr. Harrison felt like a brick added to her already burdened conscience. "Yes, I think we must. But I need you to understand it might be more complex than either of us anticipated. Simply exposing this might lead to even more pain, perhaps even legal ramifications for me. But I refuse to move forward with any ulterior motives, pretending my father's missteps didn't exist." A wave of empathy washed over Emily. She could sense his internal struggle, yet beneath the vulnerability, a new layer of resolve was forming. It reflected her own grappling with honesty, igniting a fire within her. Then we need to talk to those affected first, she concluded, her confidence growing as commitment replaced initial pangs of doubt. But what if they don't want to hear it? What if they don't wish to engage with any of this? That's a risk we must be willing to face, he replied, newfound tenacity threading through his voice. As the reality of their endeavor crystallized, Emily felt her mind flickering back to her own buried fears. Would this journey force her to confront her past, her strategic avoidance of vulnerability? Would she be brave enough to stand alongside Mr. Harrison, knowing that their endeavor could highlight her own professional missteps and personal insecurities? Determined not to retreat into the shadows again, she leaned into the discomfort. Let us map out who we need to speak to. Each of their stories matters. We can't afford to lose sight of that. Mr. Harrison nodded, grateful for her unwavering energy. As they started listing names, a strange sense of camaraderie blossomed, each name becoming a beacon of what awaited them. Forging ahead felt like diving into the unknown, but the chance to reshape their destinies ignited her spirit. Just as they began expanding their plan, a lingering thought resurfaced in Emily's mind, a shadow of uncertainty she hadn't yet addressed. What would she sacrifice to uncover these truths, and were the changes unfolding within her truly worth the potential aftermath? The garden loomed around them, a witness to their new convictions. They were being drawn into a whirlwind of accountability, one that promised transformation yet threatened to expose the deepest aspects of their souls. Would Emily find the strength to face her own hidden truths, or would she retreat once again into the silence she had long embraced? With the sun dipping lower in the sky, its golden light began to cast long shadows across the garden. Emily felt the ambience shift, a subtle reminder that even in this moment of burgeoning clarity, uncertainty still lingered like a specter at the edges of their endeavor. Every name on their list represented a step into the past, a pathway fraught with memories both painful and profound. They had decided to start with Marlene, an investor who had been entwined in Mr. Harrison's father's questionable deals. Emily felt her heart race at the thought of their impending confrontation. What if Marlene was not ready to discuss the past? What if her experiences were too painful to unearth? The reality that they were digging into someone else's wounds intensified her own apprehensions. Do you think Marlene will be receptive? Emily asked, the doubt surfacing as she tapped her pen rhythmically against the notebook. Mr. Harrison considered her for a moment, his eyes reflecting an unease that mirrored her own. She might not be, but if we're sincere, she'll feel that. We can't hide behind polished words anymore. His voice was firm as he pressed his lips together in determination. Emily nodded, stirring her thoughts as the reality dawned on her. The conversations ahead were not just interviews. They were potential confrontations with the echoes of decisions that had shaped lives. They were also confrontations with herself, pushing her to challenge the habitual facades she had built in her professional life. Could she truly strip away the layers she had concealed behind to become a vessel of empathy and understanding? Okay, she said slowly, her voice emerging with unexpected assertiveness. Let us not just go through the motions. We need to prepare for those moments where emotions might erupt. Understanding her completely will require us to reflect our own vulnerabilities as well. He agreed, clearly appreciating her evolving perspective. As the two continued their preparations, Emily experienced a peculiar sensation of excitement interwoven with her anxiety. This was not merely about helping Mr. Harrison reconcile with his family's past. It was about redefining her own narrative. The prospect of facing others' traumas urged her to confront her own hesitations, the fear of unveiling her own shortcomings, and the emotional toll it might come with. The following day, as they arrived at Marlene's office, Emily's stomach knotted at the memory of her own troubled past. Professional setbacks had forced her into a realm of meticulous control, where vulnerability felt like a weakness. It was a stance she had taken to shield herself from the harsh critiques that had once left her reeling. But now those walls appeared less formidable. They seemed like artifacts of a time she was determined to outgrow. Marlene's office was adorned with accolades and certificates, a stark contrast to the uncertainty swirling in Emily's mind. Yet, as they discussed the state of affairs, Emily felt herself easing into a new persona, a version that could convey understanding while pushing for honesty. Your father's choices reverberated among so many, Emily said carefully, watching for Marlene's reaction. It's crucial we acknowledge the weight they carried. Marlene shifted in her chair, and Emily could discern the flicker of vulnerability behind her steely exterior. It wasn't easy for any of us involved, she murmured, her voice quavering just slightly, and that moment, Emily recognized an undeniable truth. The power of vulnerability created connections deeper than any shared history. She felt her spirit surge with a courageous clarity, the embers of her newfound strength igniting. What remained unresolved, however, loomed ominously over them. Would Marlene embrace this discussion as a healing process, or would she rebuff their attempts to engage? The answer to that question felt like a chasm between them, each heartbeat echoing a potential breakthrough or a devastating collapse. As they prepared to delve deeper into the conversation, Emily braced herself. She was no longer just a participant. She was a catalyst for change that could possibly reshape not only her own destiny, but the legacies intertwined with her past. Would facing their shared truths inspire healing or fracture the already tenuous bond they were forging? With each breath, Emily felt the weight of her choices materialize, reminding her that the journey was only beginning. Would she continue to channel her vulnerability into strength or falter at the edge of exposure? The moment hung, pregnant with possibility, as the tension in the room thickened, awaiting a revelation that might change everything. The air in Marlene's office felt heavy, weighted with unspoken words and unprocessed grief. Emily leaned forward, her palms pressed firmly against the cool surface of the table, a subconscious attempt to ground herself amid the turmoil swirling within. Every tick of the clock seemed to echo her anticipation, strumming at her nerves like the strings of a tightly wound instrument. Marlene, she began, her voice steady, we genuinely want to understand what happened, how it impacted you, and how we might start to make sense of the past. Marlene's eyes flickered, and for a split second, Emily witnessed the tight stranglehold of past pain easing just a bit. You think it's that simple? Marlene shot back, defiance woven in her tone. Understanding doesn't erase what was done. Doesn't make it go away. That's true, Emily replied, her breath hitching for a moment. But sharing the weight might make it a little lighter. She felt something shift in the room, a ripple of authenticity that felt almost tangible. This was new territory. Emily had always been trained to maintain a certain professionalism, to suppress her empathy beneath polished exteriors. But every moment here challenged that conditioning, beckoning her to embrace the vulnerability that felt intoxicating yet frightening. Marlene paused, the silence morphing into a sanctuary for reflection. Emily sensed the internal war raging within her, the desire to protect herself from painful truths and the yearning to heal. Finally, the investor sighed, a sound tinged with resignation. Can't just be about healing. Sometimes it's about accountability. Accountability. The word lingered, stirring unease within Emily. What did that entail? In her mind, she began to unravel the complexities of the word. To confront their past meant to take ownership of actions and decisions that left scars. Was she too prepared to face her own? What does accountability look like to you? Emily asked, her curiosity piqued. She was no longer simply a facilitator, no longer simply a bystander in these conversations. Instead, she sought to co-create an environment of honesty and reflection. Marlene regarded her with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. It means facing the consequences of decisions made, even when they're uncomfortable. It means acknowledging the hurt caused, not just as a business venture but as a human obligation. Emily felt an awakening within her. She had spent so long hiding behind her meticulous control, shielding herself from the profound impact of deeply held emotions. Yet here she stood, confronted by the rawness of another's experience, boundary lines blurring as vulnerability cracked what remained of her fiat. As they continued this fraught exchange, Emily realized that her own burdens, the stinging remarks from colleagues, the fear of failure, the very real risk of exposing parts of herself she had always considered weaknesses were as significant as the implications of Marlene's past dealings. Each professional hurdle she had faced echoed of a need for accountability in her own life. Could the strength Marlene sought stem directly from her own unacknowledged fears? The conversation turned deeper, as Marlene shared fragments of her troubled history. Emily's heart ached as she connected the dots, not merely for Marlene but for herself. This was more than just a business undertaking. It was a shared reckoning between two women navigating the remnants of legacy. As they spoke, the shadows lengthened, and Emily felt trapped between the necessity to guide Marlene toward healing and the urgency to own her own vulnerabilities. The very act of listening became a form of leadership she had never anticipated, a skill that required immense courage. Perhaps, Emily suggested cautiously, sharing our failures, how they shaped us, could provide a new perspective. It's about unearthing the truths we've kept hidden for too long. Marlene studied her, her gaze penetrating, as if searching for a crack in Emily's composed exterior. You believe that's possible? I think it has to be, Emily replied, feeling fires ignite within her. For both of us. In that pivotal moment, Emily grasped a profound realization. The path of professional development was not defined solely by achievements but rather by the resilience found in raw honesty, the willingness to embrace vulnerability, even when it felt like a risk. As Marlene leaned in, captivated and contemplative, Emily sensed an impending shift in their dynamic. But what awaited them beyond this cathartic exchange remained uncertain, fraught with the risks of the past intertwining with the aspirations of the present. Would they summon the courage necessary to dismantle the protective barriers that had held them captive? The time seemed to hang, waiting to witness the consequences of their honesty and the revelations yet to unfold. Emily locked eyes with Marlene, the tension thickening. Upon the cusp of transformation, the real challenge loomed. What unexpected truths would come to light, and how would both women react to those revelations? As the conversation deepened, the stakes rose, poised to shatter the fragile illusions of control they each held. The air in Marlene's office crackled with intensity as the two women sat, teetering on the brink of profound realization. Emily felt the walls of her self-made prison begin to crumble as vulnerability darted between them in palpable waves. This wasn't just about Mr. Harrison, his family's legacy, or past grievances. It was a chance for her to redefine her entire narrative. As Marlene hesitated, the echoes of their shared truths lingered in the air, unspoken yet intensely felt. I've spent years trying to regain control over my story, Marlene finally admitted. Her voice broke slightly, a rawness spilling over the edges of her steely demeanor. Every deal I made was a way to prove I was worth something, but deep down I still felt so inadequate. Emily's heart swelled with empathy, resonating with Marlene's realization. Taking a deep breath, she leaned forward. We all navigate feelings of inadequacy in some form. Perhaps it's about reclaiming our power together. Sharing these experiences could ignite a path for both of us. A flutter of hope drifted through the room, bridging their differences and intertwining their journeys toward healing. Marlene's brow furrowed with uncertainty, but Emily could see the glimmer of curiosity beginning to overcome her defenses. And how would that work? By supporting each other and laying the groundwork for accountability, Emily proposed. We have the opportunity to show that reckoning does not have to be a solitary experience. Imagine bringing together those affected by our pasts to speak honestly, to confront the truths that have burdened us so long. Marlene's eyes shone with a mix of fear and eagerness. And what if it opens wounds too deep? What if this exposes truths that can't be reconciled? Emily felt a surge of determination. It's a risk we have to take. Facing the truth will either liberate us or acknowledge the weight of our pasts. But it will be a shared endeavor. We won't be alone. A flicker of acceptance crossed Marlene's face, strengthening their budding connection. All right, Marlene said carefully, deliberation softening her voice. Let us see where this leads. Acknowledging my pain could help someone else find their voice. The resolve dawned in Emily as well, understanding that the power of this journey did not solely belong to Mr. Harrison or Marlene, but to her. The past few weeks had molded her into a warrior, courage bleeding into each decision she made. She was no longer just the cleaning lady. She was the author of her own story, ready to craft a new narrative. And the days that followed, Emily worked energetically alongside Mr. Harrison and Marlene, coordinating meetings and discussions with those impacted by the hidden truths of their collective past. Each conversation peeled back the layers, each shared experience contributing to the formation of an understanding that had been so long neglected. They met with former associates of Mr. Harrison's father. Though the ambience was fraught with tension, Emily navigated each encounter with a newfound confidence and poise, her heart synchronized with a larger purpose. She could feel the hesitation dissipating, remnants of her fear slipping through her fingers as she fully embraced her role as a catalyst for change. Their discussions reached a tipping point when a roundtable meeting was organized, uniting everyone affected. The room was heavy with expectation, conversations tangled with anticipation. Each individual had been granted a platform to articulate their stories. The atmosphere sparkled with the possibility of healing. Marlene kicked off the session standing tall, her voice unwavering. Today we face the shadows of our pasts, not as adversaries but as survivors. The words struck a chord within Emily, who watched with pride as Marlene continued to share her journey toward reclaiming her agency as secrets spilled into the light. Emily felt her own burdens lighten. The discussions inspired courage and connection, resonating deeply within her, and offering validation for the struggles she had fought through silently. Her own fears, insecurities, and losses emerged alongside those found in the room, transforming into symbols of strength rather than indications of weakness. After weeks filled with conversations, Emily stood on the trajectory of growth she never expected to reach. She had conquered the obstacle of her own silence, proving to herself that vulnerability was a superpower, not a flaw. One afternoon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the garden, Mr. Harrison approached her, the tension in the air now replaced with something lighter. "Emily, the way you've carried us through these discussions has been incredible. Your strength has inspired not just me but everyone involved." His acknowledgement swelled her heart with pride, but more importantly, it solidified her evolution. No longer just a figure in the background, she had emerged as a recognized force for good. "I needed to own my own truth to find the courage within," she smiled back at him. "We've all come a long way," he noted, sincerity shining in his eyes. "But this is just the beginning." Emily felt solid confidence coursing through her veins. She wasn't just part of someone else's narrative anymore. She had become the architect of her own life story, harnessing her voice to create ripples of change. Renewed by their transformative experiences, Emily, Mr. Harrison, and Marlene stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. What had begun as a search for the truth had morphed into a journey of personal growth, accountability, and empowerment. The sun began to set, the horizon painted with possibilities as Emily thought of Mia, her daughter, and the life ahead. It was now a brighter future, one they could walk together. It was enough to know she had a role to play, always evolving and ready to forge new paths. Now was the moment for action, every step taken onward a testament to the power of truthful connection and the courage to rise from shadows into light. You need to subscribe now to this channel, fueled by transformation stories that linger on the edge of truth. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm, and let these stories reach those who need them. Comment your thoughts, reflections, and theories on how this journey resonates with you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the incredible power of individual overcoming stories and the change they can inspire.